Welcome to Quicksand, the most important news in pharma and biotech this week. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission charged blood testing startup Theranos, its CEO Elizabeth Holmes, and its former president with raising more than $700 million from investors through an elaborate and fraudulent scheme in which they exaggerated or made false statements about the company's technology, business, and financial performance. The SEC's complaints alleged that the company and two top employees made numerous false and misleading statements in investor presentations, product demonstrations, and media articles, deceiving investors into believing that Theranos' key product, a portable blood analyzer, could conduct comprehensive blood tests from finger drops of blood, perhaps revolutionizing the blood testing industry. In truth, according to the SEC's complaint, Theranos' proprietary analyzer could complete only a small number of tests, and the company conducted the vast majority of patient tests on modified and industry-standard commercial analyzers manufactured by others, the SEC said. Holmes agreed to pay a $500,000 penalty, be barred from serving as an officer or director of a public company for 10 years, return the remaining 18.9 million shares that she obtained during the fraud, and relinquish her voting control of Theranos, though the settlement is subject to court approval. Once valued at $9 billion, Theranos rose to prominence due to its now debunked finger prick blood testing technology and teamed up with Walgreens in 2013 to offer its tests in the latter's stores. But the drugstore giant jumped the gun on the deal. It did not fully validate Theranos' technology, and it ended up losing about $50 million by investing in Theranos, quitting the partnership, and suing the startup for misrepresenting the state of its technology. The FDA finalized ICH's guidance on DNA reactive substances that could potentially cause damage when present at low levels and potentially cause cancer. This final guidance provides guidance on acceptable intake limits derived for some chemicals that are considered to be mutagenic carcinogens and are also commonly used in the synthesis of pharmaceuticals or are useful examples to illustrate the principles for deriving compound-specific intakes described in ICH M7, FDA said. The agency's finalization of the guidance follows the ICH Assembly's and regulatory agencies' endorsement of it in June 2017. The 131-page guidance document features sections on considerations for marketed products, drug substance and drug product impurity assessments, hazard assessment elements, risk characterization, control, documentation, and 3 appendices on scenarios for the application of ICH M7, case examples to illustrate potential control approaches, and an addendum to M7. For drug makers, the guidance can help inform the development of new drug substances and new drug products during their clinical development and subsequent marketing applications. Safeguarding data to ensure patient safety and the quality of medical products is at the forefront of new guidance from the UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency. Data integrity issues have been cited frequently in US FDA Form 483s and warning letters for pharmaceutical and active ingredient manufacturers, as well as in statements of noncompliance with GMP from MHRA. Examples of such issues include attempts to dispose of or re-enter certain data on computer systems. The guidance notes that both paper-based and electronic data can be used, but data generated manually on paper may require independent verification if deemed necessary from the data integrity risk assessment or by another requirement, whereas the inherent risks to data integrity relating to equipment and computerized systems may differ depending upon the degree to which the system generating or using the data can be configured, and the potential for manipulation of data during transfer between computerized systems during the data life cycle. The guidance also defines certain terms and its interpretations at length, including what raw or source data means, what metadata is, what audit trails are, comparisons between original record and true copy, and definitions of data governance, data lifecycle, and data transfers or migrations. In terms of validating computerized systems, the guidance notes they should be validated for their intended purpose, which requires an understanding of the computerized system's function within a process. MHRA also notes that this guidance should be read in conjunction with the applicable regulations and the general guidance specific to each GXP. After about 5 years as a standalone agency, the China Food and Drug Administration will merge into a gigantic National Market Supervision Administration with drug regulation as a new second-tier bureau underneath. Presenting before China's legislative body during an annual conference, the government, known as the State Council, proposed to combine the CFDA with agencies that regulate business registration, quality control, pricing, and anti-monopoly efforts into a new department. Given the unique characteristics of drug regulation, a separate state drug administration will be established and managed under the National Market Regulatory Administration, said the government presenter at the conference. Operations of the new drug regulator will only extend to the provincial level, while drug sales and marketing activities will be monitored by local market supervision agencies. The announcement lacks detailed plans for now, but it appears the Specialized Drug Bureau will only focus on drug approvals and related accreditations, leaving post-marketing oversight to the bigger agency it will now belong to. Revamping the drug regulator is only one of a handful of reorganizations the Chinese government is rolling out. Other health-related changes include renaming its health department to the National Health Commission and adding a few responsibilities to coordinate healthcare reforms aimed at driving down expenditure and cope with issues emerging with China's aging population, while playing down family planning functions. Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration released a new clinical trial handbook offering guidance on the legislative, regulatory, and good clinical practice requirements for conducting clinical trials in Australia. The 55-page handbook guides trial sponsors and principal investigators, human research ethics committees, and approving authorities on unapproved therapeutic goods, which covers medicines, medical devices, and in vitro diagnostic, biologics, and 3 other types of products. Per the handbook, there are 2 schemes in Australia under which clinical trials involving unapproved therapeutic goods may be conducted: the Clinical Trial Notification Scheme and the Clinical Trial Exemption Scheme. Under both schemes, the use of therapeutic goods in a trial must be in accordance with Australia's Guideline for Good Clinical Practice, the National Statement, and the protocol approved by the Ethics Committee responsible for monitoring the trial. The handbook also discusses the various roles and responsibilities under Australia's therapeutic goods legislation. Throughout the handbook, references are made to other relevant publications and guidance to be consulted, including those from TGA, ICH, ISO, and PICS. Thank you for listening to Quicksand, episode 22, March 19, 2018.